First, I'm super excited to welcome you to our Child-Friendly webinar. I'm Wayne and I will be hosting this session. Today, our guest speaker is our founder, Laura Bancroft. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. Awesome. First, I will introduce Laura. Then I will pass to her to present Child-Friendly, what inspired it, an overview of the platform, then dive into our main topic on how to navigate Alberta's funding updates, followed by where we're headed in the future. We will then have our Q&A at the end. If you will refer to the top of your meeting screen, you will see an icon with a bubble called Q&A. Simply click this icon to type and submit your questions, and I will organize and ask them at the end. Starting with an introduction to Laura. First, she has significant experience in the childcare industry, rising to the constant demand of regulatory changes and tackling growth as she grew from overseeing 100 to now over 2,500 childcare spaces. She has led the design of Child-Friendly from start to finish, building meaningful solutions for daycare operators to streamline operations, adapt quickly to changes, allowing educators to truly focus their time on children. For some quick fun facts, she's a mother of 11 children, enjoys audiobooks, and exploring the great outdoors. I will now pass to Laura to present Child-Friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you everybody for coming today. We really appreciate it. We know how busy it is in childcare and how hard it can be to get away. So we, again, really appreciate your attendance. So before I jump into more of the content of our webinar today, as I know you're probably anxious to get to the main topic of the changes in Alberta and how Child-Friendly can assist you with running your centers regarding those changes, I want to just give you a quick little brief background of why I founded and started Child-Friendly. So first of all, as Wayne mentioned, I am the owner of a large childcare company here in Alberta. We have over 2,500 licensed spaces, about 1,000 more currently in expansion that'll be opening in the next year and a half. And we, as part of a number of years ago, we were using another software, and we were realizing pretty quickly that as we expanded, it just wasn't meeting our needs. It lacked a lot of the features that really an operator needs in Alberta in particular. And we demoed lots of different ones. We piloted a few of them. We were using an existing one that's one of the main ones in the market. And basically what happened was with that frustration and that in mind, I decided, we really needed to develop something that would actually work for operators and specifically for Alberta operators, as every province and every state is very different. There's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of unique things and regulations and so on that are specific to where you are operating your daycare center. And I happen to know personally a couple of incredible developers that are some of the best in Canada and have been very successful in their careers. And so we talked about it and we decided to partner, and that's kind of how Child-Friendly was born. So we really wanted a system that we could use, or I could use on our existing centers, but that we could also bring to Alberta childcare centers everywhere and eventually the rest of Canada and the US as well. That's a little bit about why we started Child-Friendly. And just so that I know that there's a number of new operators on the call today that maybe this is one of your first times hearing about Child-Friendly, I just wanted to let you know as well that Child-Friendly is an operating platform for childcare management, and it is an all-in-one platform. So it doesn't just do what we're going to talk about today in the webinar, but it does everything. It does your registration, your online registration, your waitlist management. It does your finance, your billing, your staff hours for payroll, your attendance, staff management, basic HR, parent communication, a whole bunch of features. So we, in this webinar, are not going to get into all those different features, but you are certainly welcome to book a demo, and our demo specialists can go through it with you and kind of look at your specific needs for your center and tailor your demo accordingly. But today, I want to focus on specific aspects of our platform that will help our operators deal with the changes that are coming in Alberta on April 1st. So to that end, this first slide here that you see we're going to start with these items. So number one, as I'm sure you are aware, the rate is changing for parents in Alberta in that now it is a flat capped fee. So you cannot charge for your basic childcare tuition or services. You cannot charge any more to a parent than the $326.25 per month. Or if it's a part-time child, the $230 per month. So that has been capped for the family, and then the government will give you an affordability grant for whatever the difference is between your fees that you've agreed to with the government based on the benchmarks for the region you're in, and the amount that you're charging parents. So you have an affordability grant that you then essentially invoice or claim from the government for that difference. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to show you in a minute how ChildFriendly addresses that and how you can set up fees that way easily with ChildFriendly. The next part we're going to talk about is the supplemental fees or optional services. So again, this change is coming April 1st, that although you have a capped rate for your families or your parents, you can charge optional services so long as they are indeed optional for families to enroll in. The most common one that we're seeing across the province happen now is a foods program, a meals program. That seems to be the most common optional service, or one that's a little more logistically possible to implement. And so you're going to see a lot of centers now, whereas before they might have included that in their rates, are now going to add that on as an optional service. ChildFriendly is built for exactly that, so I will show you that in a minute. And then the last, excuse me, the last part on this slide anyway that we're going to cover is reconciling third-party payments. With the government covering such a significant portion, the vast majority of your fees now in terms of through the claim process, it's really important that you ensure that they are actually paying the amount that they're supposed to be paying. And as much as we'd like to think that you submit the claim and then everything is accurate and it must be identical, if you're like our centers, you've experienced that is often not the case, that often you're shorted or that there's amounts that are incorrect and you have to follow up. So you need a really efficient reconciliation process to make sure you're getting paid. And ideally, you really don't want to be doing that by hand and comparing your claim to your enrollment and going back and forth and trying to figure that out. So we've developed tools for that as well in ChildFriendly. All right, so we're going to jump over and show you the platform now specific to those different features. You can see here we've got ChildFriendly open. There's a menu on the left-hand side. Again, I'm not going to go into all these different modules and features, but for now we're going to start in the setup module. So certain permissions like your administration, organization, level administration, and so on will have access to this module. This is that one-time kind of settings or setup you'll go into to set up your daycare center. And in here we have rates. Under rates, you can add as many different rates as you need to that you offer at your daycare center. And for the purposes of this demo, we've kept it very simple. We've just added some full-time rates for infant, toddler, preschool, and so on. If I click, you can add with the plus sign, but if I click into one of these rates, just to give you an example, you can see here that we've got the infant rate set at $1,200 a month. So that would be our gross amount that we are expecting to receive in revenue for that child. So that's including government grants, that's including parent fees, everything. We have added in ChildFriendly this ability now to cap that rate in terms of what you charge to the parents. So if you select cap parent payment amount, you can input that $326.25, or if you're setting this up as a part-time rate instead, you can input the $230, and then that will cap it so that the parents of that amount of the full rate will only ever be charged this amount, and this will all happen automatically during the billing. So you can set it up that way, and then it asks you, okay, but who's responsible for the rest, or primarily responsible for the rest. So you can select your third party, and you can add in as many different third parties as you want. But here, for the purposes of the affordability grant, that's going to be the most common one here. And so I've selected Alberta Affordability Grant. So we do that in setup. We can also actually, I wanted to quickly just show you too, Another neat feature is what happens when the government goes and makes a bunch of changes, which they will next year when they will potentially make changes, let's say, to the 326. Maybe they lower it because instead of $15 a day, they've been clear that they're trying to get to $10 a day, so that it gets lowered. And the amount goes up by an inflationary amount, maybe 3% or something like that. To do that, what you don't want to do is have to go through all of your children one by one and adjust their rates. That's a manual process and a painful one. So you want something that will just automatically roll over the rates as of whatever the effective date is of the rate change. And so we have that over here in our rates and setup. If you have a new rate that's created because the government makes an announcement or your fees increase for whatever reason, you can create that new rate and go into this one and just say, okay, on this date, let's say or we'll just, for purposes of the demo, say April 1st. On April 1st, we want it to change, and you just select to whatever the new rate is. And then on April 1st, that'll automatically change any children that were on that old rate to the new rate automatically, so you don't have to think about it. And you can set that up as far in advance as you want. The other nice thing about the rollover is this graduation rate. So similarly, children, as we know, as they get older, the rates change. So it's based on age typically is how we've set our rates, and that's how the government sets them as well. And so when an infant becomes a toddler, their rate is going to change. You don't want to, again, have to pull up a birthday list or pull up a list to figure out who's turning 19 months the following month and go through and adjust all their rates manually for each child in your center. Instead, we have what we call this graduation rate. So the moment a child does turn in that given month, to the next age group as defined, in this case, toddlers defined in setup as 19 months, to under 3. So if that occurs, then that child will automatically be given that their old rate will be overridden with the new toddler rate. So again, you can rest assured that everybody's being billed correctly and based on their age, as well as if there's new rates coming in. So that's a little bit on the setup side of the rates. Now I want to show you, well, that specifically was for the regular tuition, so those regular child care fees that are non-optional. Now I want to quickly show you the supplemental fees, or those optional fees. So in ChildFriendly, we call those adjustments. And we have adjustments. You can set up discounts as adjustments. You can set up additional fees as adjustments. But let me just quickly show you. Again, this is a one-time thing you come into setup to do, and then I'll show you how it affects the ledgers of the children in a minute. But when I come into setup, I can add different supplementary program fees if I want. So in this case, I've set up a meal service. You could set up if you're doing an addition for preschool programming or whatever the case may be. But let's use meal service as example. I think that'll be the most common here in Alberta. And so in here, you can see you can set it up, let's say $1 amount, and let's say you charge $100 a month for this service. It's a fee, not a discount. You can also set up discounts like employee discounts in here. And there's a nice handy little toggle here specific for meal services that you can select, and that will in our meals, we have a module or a tab called meals, where you can see how many children are actually enrolled in that service and things like that, which I'll show you shortly. But you can toggle it on for the meal service so that later your cook knows how many children that they should be actually grocery shopping for and things like that. And then your frequency. The frequency is just informational only. If you've looked at the requirements and the reporting from Alberta government on supplementary fees, which I'll show you, one of the items that they require is this field. They require you to say whether the supplemental fee is a monthly fee, an annual, one time, or another. So we've added that little drop down specific to Alberta because that's what the government is currently requiring when you report your fees. So in this case, it's monthly. Then there's one more thing I just wanted to add in here and let you know about is if your fee changes. So let's say next month you've decided to increase it by $10 or whatever it is. If you go in here and you increase it by $10, it will ask you if you want to override all the existing auto adjustments for this type And you can say, yes, I want to update the past and what date it'll be updated. So it'll keep charging the whatever you've already set up until whatever date, and then it'll be overridden by the new amount. So again, you don't have to go through each child and individually change their fee for their auto adjustment or the supplementary fee whenever you've increased them. All right, so moving along here, I'm going to jump over to a family's ledger. So that's essentially it for rates and how you set them up behind the scenes. Now we can go into the individual families. So if I click into my families module here, again, I'm not going to go through all of this module right now and show you what everything means and is, but it is a kind of a grouping or a list of all the families in your center and their current status and so on. So if I click into one of these families, let's say the Armstrong family, screen pops out here with all the details of that family. And under the little home here, I can go into this family's ledger and take a look at it. Under the ledger, this is where you set up your automatic billing for this family so that the system knows exactly how they should be billed each month. And then at the beginning of the month, or at the end of the previous month, or however you do it with your policies, you're going to go into the kind of bulk finances over here and you'll process all that billing just in a click. But this is how the system knows what to bill this family. So in it, you can set up under auto regular tuition invoicing, you can set up your sponsors for this family. And in this case, it looks like we've got 2 sponsors here. It looks like Dylan is dad and Luis is mom. And we've set them up to be 50% each in terms of what they owe for fees. So 50% of the fee is being billed to mom, 50% of the fee is being billed to dad. Now, the fee, this is for their regular tuition, so those non-optional services. And that, as you know from the setup that I just showed you, is capped for the parents. So they're only going to be paying 50% of the parent portion, the capped amount of that. And so if I look up here, I can kind of see what that breakdown looks like. You can see Luis is being billed at the 163 and Dylan at the 163 for their regular tuition. And then the affordability grant here is being automatically billed for the difference. So that's to the government. So it shows you if you make changes here, it'll show you the breakdown up there. I can also add the supplementary fees, these auto adjustments. So I can add as many as I want here with the plus sign. In this case, I have added the meal service here, which is that $100 a month. And I have specifically decided that Luis is the one responsible. I could change that if I wanted, split it however I want to do it. But anyway, for this purpose, we've had Luis as responsible. If I scroll up here, you can see that she will be billed in addition to the 163, that $100. And then the total billing with all those different sponsors will be the $1,250. You can also set up subsidy in here. So if you had an OSC child or something like that, we know in Alberta now subsidy is going away. It's only out of school care that is going to have subsidy payments now for that license type. However, you can, if you have out of school children, you can set up them as an additional sponsor. You can just pick Alberta subsidy here and put in whatever their expiry date is and the amount and so on there, and it will adjust everything accordingly. So that's a little bit on the ledger. The last part that I want to show you for this section anyway is, as discussed, the reconciling feature. So, okay, so now the billing happens at the beginning of the month. The parent, we all know exactly what the families are going to get billed because that was set up in the ledger. So that all happens automatically. Now what happens when the government actually pays? So when the government pays that bill or that claim, so you go in, you process your claim, and the government pays it. How do you reconcile to make sure that you're really collecting everything that you need to be collecting from them? If I go into the finances, this is kind of where we do everything in bulk for finances. There is a settlement tab right here. And I think, sorry, I just got to check my notes. I think I set up in the demo March. Okay, we'll look at March. So I'm going to search for March. And in here, you can see you can filter by whatever sponsor you want to filter by. So I'm going to filter by Alberta. I think that's all I have set up in here anyway, is the Alberta Affordability Grant. and it'll pull up everybody, all the Alberta affordability grant sponsors that have made payments. So every payment that you've received on behalf of each child for the Alberta affordability grant. So when I filter that, you can see all of that. And now what I can do is I can take that claim online and I can look at that payment receipt or whatnot and see the breakdown that the government gives you of each child and how much affordability grant they received. You can compare that to this list, and you can filter, you can sort by last name, however it appears on the grants claim, you can filter so it's in the same order. And then you just go through and you can check these off and you can say, yep, I received for this child, Blake, I did receive the 823.75. I'm happy with that. Check, check, and so on. And you keep checking them off and you can see the deposit amount is growing as you do that until, of course, that deposit amount equals the amount that's on your claim for the affordability grants. So you can keep doing that. But what happens when you run into one where the government didn't give you what you expected or what you billed? And you need to reconcile that. So let's say in this case, Benton, let's pretend the government only gave us $500 for whatever the reason. Hopefully that's not the case with the affordability grant because it should be the same as it's based on registered hours, but you never know. And if you go into here, so you put in 500 and then you click reconcile. And this is going to tell the system, okay, what do you want to do with that, with the difference? So you have been underpaid for the amount. You don't want to be at a loss here. And so who's responsible for that amount? And if you believe it actually is the government and they mess something up, and you need to put in an adjustment online for them to pay you that difference, you can keep the recovery invoice going to the government. And then in another screen, you can easily filter for all of your recovery invoices to the Alberta Affordability Grant so that you can then input all your adjustments in the claims portal. You would do the same process for Alberta Subsidy. So Alberta Subsidy, let's say the parents were shorted hours in their case. They didn't attend enough, and so the subsidy got shorted. You could do the same thing, except that instead of giving the recovery invoice to the Alberta government, you're going to give it to the parent and say, sorry, the parent's responsible for that difference. And you can put in your memo and so on and click update. And then basically, I'll just do an example. Let's say we give this to the parent as an example. I click update and you can see now it's changed. It's actually 500 that was processed and the actual amount here is 500. So we're happy with it. We can click it off and we can keep going until our deposit equals the full claim. And then, as I mentioned, we can go into either screen and do our subsidy adjustments from there. All right, we're going to jump back. And by the way, if you think of questions, just make sure you're putting them into the Q&A chat as we go, as you think of them. And then at the end, I will definitely leave as much time as possible to get through as many of those questions as we can. So jumping back here, next I want to show you some of the reports we have for Child-Friendly that are specific to the changes that are coming here on April 1st. And if these screenshots here should look familiar to you, they are directly from the agreement that you potentially signed for the new April 1st affordability grant agreement. So the first one here is a template. It's for the subsidy fees reporting. The government is now requiring that not subsidy fees, sorry, supplemental fees is what I meant. The government's requiring that at the end of every year that you file a report with them, you submit a report that looks essentially like this. They've provided a template and what needs to be on that report. And you also have to do that, I believe it's within 30 days. If you ever change your supplemental fees, you also have to submit this report. So that's one report that you need to do. Then we have what they call the Alberta Claims Record. So again, from the agreement, here's a little screenshot that shows you exactly what is required within the claims record and the information you need. So it's going to be things, you can see the list there. It's probably kind of tiny on your screen, but you can see the child's name. They're going to have a unique identifier, an ID now, the birth date, email address, phone number of the parent, name, and so on. And then the number of hours per month the child is registered to attend, so registered hours, and the number of hours that they actually attended. So they'll need that information. And then they're going to need information regarding what the parent fee was, so that capped fee, and then and any other fees that were charged. You can charge things like late payments and things like that, and then supplemental fees as well. So they require all of that information. As you can imagine, and as you already know, that there is potentially and likely to be quite a few audits surrounding these claims. And this is the information your auditors are going to be looking for. And the government will be asking you to submit not just when you do the claim online, but if they're actually auditing it as well. And rather than having you have to go collect this information from multiple sources, maybe you have to go get all the children's birth dates from one report, and then you have to go get their attendance report for all their hours, and then what they're registered to attend from a different report, and so on, and their fees from somewhere else. And then you have to put all that together for your auditor somehow, and in a way that is easy to understand for them, as well as potentially putting that together directly for the government if they're requesting it, and also needing that information for when you actually submit the claim. So rather than making you do all of that run around, we have created a report that is called the Alberta Claims Report, and it has every single one of those items in it. So you just select your period and you can easily see everything you need at a glance for every single child in that period. And so it's going to make your audits very, very simple when it comes to your affordability grants, and it makes your claims process when you submit everything online very easy. And then the last report, this one we've had for a long time, as it's been around for a while, but for your OSC children now, not for everyone else, you're going to continue to want to use our Alberta Subsidy Claim Report, which similar to the claims record here, is just everything that when you submit your online claim for subsidy, everything that you have to input into the claims portal for that. So let's quickly just take a look at those reports. We're doing pretty good for time, but I do want to leave lots for questions at the end. So jumping over here to the reports section, we have lots of different reports in Child-Friendly. You can kind of see the different headings here along the top, but anything that is specific to your province or state is going to be in here. And specifically for Alberta, in this demo, we have our region reports. So these are all Alberta specific government reports that you need. And you can, so let's actually just start here with the supplemental fees report that I mentioned. You would normally select, if you're doing this at the end of the year or however when you submit it annually, your period you're going to select is the entire year, but I've only put in data for this demo for February. So I'm just going to show you February. Normally you would grab the entire year, as this is an annual report. And then you can submit this to the government. So you can see it looks identical to what the government required under the agreement that you would have signed if you're submitting this report. So you can see over here, they call it optional services provided, and then they call it supplemental parent fees at the top. And you can see the different services. You can see I've had one child in this period that's on this service and being billed for that service, and 11 children that are being billed for this service. So you can export this report and get it off to the government. And then you've got your claims record that I mentioned. So let's do, actually, I think it's February that I put some data in here for. So for the claims record, again, it just is a report. You can download it as a CSV if you need to, but it just shows you all the information that was listed and required by the government. There's a student ID field here in each student's profile. We don't have any in here, any data in here for that, but that's been added because that's the new thing for Alberta. You can see here we've got the registered hours. So in this case, this child's registered to attend 240 hours in the month. So they're registered Monday to Friday in our demo example from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., which for the month of whatever month I selected, March, is what that comes to. And then you can see their actual attended hours here along this column here. And then their guardian and all that information that's requested, their birthday, and then all of the different charges that they have been charged. So you've got your regular tuition, your meal service, and so on. and it totals at the end. So that gives you the claims record. Subsidy record is very similar, except you're just going to filter for Alberta subsidy, and it'll show you just your subsidy children and so on. All right, for sake of time, we're going to jump away from reports now and back to our little presentation here and talk about this meals tab. So in the meals, I mentioned that in Alberta, many centers, in fact, I would argue probably the majority of centers in Alberta are now going to be adding on meals as a supplementary service. And we have a feature here in ChildFriendly that lets you essentially tag any children via the supplemental fees that I showed you, where you can decide if it's a meal service. And that will essentially tag the children so that you know that they're part of the meals program. And then you can, from there, determine how many children are in that program, what rooms they're in, and so on. And that will help you generate your grocery list, how much you need to shop for. And it also helps your cook figure out how much, when they actually go to cook the meals that day, how many they need to cook for each specific group. You can filter that way and so on. And how many to deliver to the rooms. Let's jump over to ChildFriendly and show it's easier if you actually can see it. All right, so in this meals tab, we're under the dashboard, which is kind of your one-stop shop for your admin staff. But the meals tab here, right now it's just showing you every child in the center, but you can now filter and you can say, actually, I only want to see those children that are actually enrolled for the meals services. So let's see how many are. In this case, we only have a handful that are actually enrolled for the service. And then I can take it a step further. You can also do it by date so that you're specifically looking at a specific day of the week. Maybe you have part-time kids that don't come every day and so on. But anyway, so then I can also say, in our center, let's use an example in a center that offers a menu, but they have different meals. Let's say they have pork on their menu, and they have a vegetarian alternative for those that cannot eat pork for religious reasons or whatever the reason may be. And so what you can do here is you can actually filter and you can say, oh, I don't want to see, we have pork today on the menu. I want to know how many kids that I need to cook for. I need to cook a vegetarian option and how many I need to cook the pork option for. And so you can see in this example, we've got 10 that are permitted out of the total 12 enrolled in the meals program that can have the pork option, and we've got 2 that are not allowed to have pork. And so you're going to give them whatever the alternate option is. And then you can filter further. When you just have 10 kids, you really don't need to, or 12 kids, you don't need to filter further, but in your center, maybe you have 100 kids or something like that. So you're going to have more showing up here. You can filter further so that if you're wanting to know how many vegetarian options to bring to the room itself and how many regular, whatever the meal is, options, you can do that. So if I want to, let's just say filter by the whales, then I can see, okay, in the whales group, bringing 1 alternate option and 0 of the pork options. Obviously, you'll have more than that, but that just kind of helps your cook and your kitchen staff know exactly where the food needs to be, how many servings need to get there, and that they're not bringing a bunch of servings for children if they're not enrolled in the actual program. So that's another kind of handy feature. We have lots, so we want to add to the meals feature, but for now, that is what we have on it. All right, I have left lots of time for Q&A. And so I think, oh, sorry, actually, I missed one item. Just checking my notes here. One more item I'm going to quickly show you, and then we'll go into Q&A. One question that might come up is, how do you know if a child is registered in the meals program efficiently? So, do we have to email them to find that out? Do we ask it in an enrollment package? How does that happen with ChildFriendly in an efficient way? And what we do at ChildFriendly is in setup, you can create, our whole system is through online registration. So you're going to embed a form into your website, and you can your students can register, your families can register online. As part of that, in setup, under center, let's see, customizations. Actually, it might be over here. You know what? I'm actually just going to show you under a family. So in setup, you can add as many questions and things you want to ask. There's policies they can sign off on. We're not going to go through the whole registration process right now. But one of the custom questions that you can put in there is something like, oh, sorry, I need to go to the child. Something like this. So I added in setup, I added this custom question, and it's, would you like to enroll in the meals program for $110 a month? If not, you are required to pack your own meals in accordance with our meals service policy. So you can add that. You can add as many as you want in there. And then the child, when they register online, they are going to be required to answer that question. So maybe it's a yes. And so when a child registers, you're going to be able to just jump to their profile and you can see right here whether they're enrolled in the meals program, and therefore you can easily set up in their ledger however if you want to add in the supplementary meals fee. So that's kind of how a little bit of a background on how that works. All right, now I think it is time for Q&A. No, it's not time for Q&A. One more slide here. This is just a look to the future with Child-Friendly, as in we are really excited that we've recently announced that we have a learning module coming that's going to be released early this year. So right away here, actually, in the next coming month or so. And what that is we at Child-Friendly really want everything digitized as much as possible to be digitized in childcare to make things more efficient for everybody. And one of those things is digitizing our lesson planning for our ECEs. So the lessons that they do will all be digital. They can the curriculum that we have in Child-Friendly, you'll be able to add custom curriculums. Maybe you do Montessori or different things, but the flight curriculum will already be uploaded in there for our Alberta operators. And then your staff can make lesson plans and weekly plans accordingly. That will all be beautifully communicated to the parents through the app. And there's calendar that's coming, progress reports. You're going to be able to tag the different milestones from the curriculum. When you send a journal entry for parents on if their child did a certain activity, you can tag the different milestones. That's all tracked through the progress reporting, so they can see how their children are progressing. And there's even a full kind of report card, if you will, or more formal progress report is what I would call it, showing their development and where they're at and so on. That gets shared with the parents. So we're really, really excited about the learning module. It's awesome. So it's going to be good. The one thing we like to kind of brag about a little bit in Child-Friendly, and what I joke about, is when we implemented it in our centers, we essentially got rid of all paper. Our incident reports are all digital now through Child-Friendly and signed off. That way our registration is all digital, all the policies are signed off on, our staff HR files, everything is all digitized. And so we still have in our centers all these filing cabinets that used to be so full of documents. And if you open them now, they're full of toys and crafts, and they get used for storage. It always does, but not files. And so that's been really exciting. So we're excited. This is a big step for us and making one more item completely digital. All right, now we are officially ready, Wayne, for those questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Laura. We will now get to the Q&A portion of the webinar. As mentioned before, if you look at the icon on the very top of your meeting screen, it's in a bubble with a question mark. Please leave your questions here if you have any. And for any questions that we don't get to today, we will follow up with an email and reach out with answers after the presentations. You can also ask us questions by reaching out to us by our website or email as well. Great. The first question is, can you export the reports to an Excel format?
Yes, certainly. I can just quickly show that to you. If I go to the reports, region reports, every report is exportable, but let's show you the claims record as an example. If you just scroll down here, always in the top or the bottom left-hand corner, there's this download to CSV, which you can do, and then it just downloads it to your downloads file, and we'll show it there.
Great. The next question is, being as it is all digital, how do we show the licensing officer when she comes to do her inspection and wants to see child files and employee files?
There's a digital filing cabinet. So let's give you another example. So if I go into the Families tab, hopefully the demo data here is set up well for you. I can go into the, I think it's home screen. Yeah, the home here for the family, and under files, I can see all the files for this child. I can create new folders. So if, let's say, you are doing meetings, a meeting with a family, and they've signed something or whatever it is, you can upload files, organize them however you want, and just make this your go-to file storage for that child. So you always have their information. But when it comes to specifically their registration here, you can open up their registration, and you can see all their different policies, the parent handbook, whatever you've had signed, and you can download that. If they really want a paper copy and they want that, you can download it for them. They can see it, or they can just view it online on here when you show it to them. So it's been no issue at all for our licensing. In fact, the Alberta government specifically, I know that doesn't always get communicated down to licensing, but is specifically looking for centers to digitize. So we've had lots of support, and yeah, it's all signed here.
Great. The next question is, can you connect the platform to QuickBooks Online for billing?
Yes, we do have. QuickBooks is the main software we sync with in terms of our accounting softwares. If you go into your finance, you can see there's a little sync button here. And this isn't configured right now, the demo center, but you're going to connect to your QuickBooks, and essentially it'll bring you to a login page where you log into your QuickBooks account. And when you press sync, there'll be a sync button once you've configured it. It will bring over all of the transactions up to that date that have occurred in ChildFriendly into your QuickBooks files. And so that's how it works. And anytime you make a change, it is a real sync. So you can't, in QuickBooks, you can't make changes to ChildFriendly transactions. So if there's a transaction that occurred in ChildFriendly, then in QuickBooks, if you go to change it, when you sync again, it's going to override it. So you always want to make your changes in ChildFriendly, and then that will sync over to your QuickBooks. And that way you don't ever have two different systems with different information. It's just a fail-safe.
Okay, so I have another question. Will you be adding Sage to your partner list? We use Sage, so it would be nice to be able to do the same for Sage.
Yes, Sage, Xero, there's a few that we want to add right now. Unfortunately, how you have to do it, it's still okay, it works. There is a report called, I think it's under financial reports, transaction report. So you can download the different transaction types here. There's 4 different ones. And it just downloads into a .csv, and then you can upload that into any accounting software. Pretty much any accounting software lets you upload CSVs in order to input transactions. So that's how you can do it now. However, we are looking to add that sync feature for a bunch of different ones, including that one.
Great. The next one is, can individual educators input child hours for a day home setting?
For child hours, yes. So we just have a sign-in system. So under attendance, I don't want to really go, attendance is kind of a big thing to show. So, but under attendance, you can assign the child into whatever rooms you've created. So you're going to click into a team and sign children in and so on. I won't go through all this right now because we could spend a long time just showing you attendance. But anyway, you can sign the child in, and then at the end of the day when they leave, they go out, you sign them out, and that's how you would track their attendance. You can manually add attendance too. If you go into the child's profile, normally you wouldn't really do it this way. You'd use the attendance feature, but maybe for a day home, because you're smaller, maybe it's easier. But you'd go to this attendance, and you can just add a new sign in here and do it manually that way if you wanted to do that.
Great, thank you. Looks like we might have done a great job with our presentation. Not too many questions so far for this webinar. Maybe, I'll just interject quickly. A common question we do get asked is about pricing. Maybe Laura, do you kind of want to explain how our pricing model kind of works, and we'll see if anyone has any more questions they would like to bring up.
Sure. Be happy to. I'm just going to go to our website because there's a bit of a visual there on pricing. And please do book a demo if you want to learn more specifics, especially tailored to your specific setup or your center and how we can do that. But we have two different options for pricing. You've got your Lite account, which is your free account that you can sign up for, or your add-on, your pro account, we call it. Essentially, the Lite account comes with everything that the Pro account comes with, all of our different features, and except down here. So with the Lite account, you cannot use our PAD or credit card payment processing. That's built into our software so that it's all, you click your button to process your parent payments and they're all automatically processed. That only comes with our Pro account, and same with our credit cards processing. You can choose if you want to accept credit cards or not. The difference between the two accounts is that with the PAD or with the Pro account, if you add on those merchant services, it's a 1% fee for PAD payments. So anytime you take funds from the parent's bank account, there would be a 1% fee added on to that as the merchant fee, plus I think 30 cents per transaction. And credit cards is higher. It's 3.75% is the credit card merchant fee plus 30 cents a transaction. The nice thing is if you do use our merchant services for that, there is what we call the fee pass-through. So our fee pass-through in Canada, you can actually, well, in the States too, but you can pass on a certain amount of the merchant fee. It's 2 point something percent. Do you remember what it is, Wayne?
2.4? Yeah.
2.4. There you go. You can pass on up to 2.4% of merchant fees to your customers. So in Child-Friendly, what we have, and it's completely optional if you want to pass on that cost to your families, you can, and you just do it under here. You pick your center and under here. So where you're setting it up, you can decide, actually, I'm going to pass on, and I've set up my PAD instead of the 1%, I'm going to pass on that full amount to the families. And then every time the billing happens, the families will be charged that merchant fee. You won't be charged it. It goes to the families, and then that's what goes to Child-Friendly. And so really, if you do it that way, you are getting the entire Child-Friendly system for free. You can always give parents the option to pay by e-transfer or other alternative payment methods if they want to skip the merchant fee. That's always, of course, an option. But anyway, that's how our pricing works. Hopefully that answers that.
Great, thank you. I have one more question here. Do you do payroll?
We don't process the payroll, but we do track the hours. So your staff will use our attendance feature, and then what will happen, so they'll sign into their different rooms and so on. And then under reports, we have a payroll report somewhere under here, under attendance, under payroll. And I don't know how many staff are in the system, hopefully some in this demo. Yep. You can see their ID, their name, position, and so on. And if I scroll over here, you can see their total hours, and you can also see it broken down by the hours type. So maybe you pay them potentially differently depending on what they're doing. So their prep hours, their transport hours, maybe one on the bus, they get paid at a different rate or something like that. So these types can be changed however you want. You just do that in setup under customization, so you can track them however you want. One of the big things would be, for instance, if you have kitchen staff that can't get the wage top up for the time that they're doing the kitchen because they're kind of a dedicated kitchen staff, you're going to want to obviously track their kitchen hours separately than you would track childcare hours, because that's going to affect your wage top up. So you can track that way. And then you essentially take this report, and then whatever payroll system you use, you can just put in the hours into that system.
Great, thank you so much. That appears to be all the questions that we have. Hopefully we've done an awesome job, addressing all the concerns you had for attending this webinar. Great. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone. And I would also just say that we do have Book a Demo on our website. So I really strongly encourage you to go ahead and book that with one of our demo specialists so we can really dig into your center specifically.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you. Bye.